Hey, this is Malika of Evanston Live TV, and we have with us, well, he's no longer an Evanston resident, but he grew up in Evanston. He knows Evanston, and he's still active in Evanston, very, very passionate about Evanston. Many of you know him, Mr. John Nance. Welcome to the show, Mr. Nance.
Hey, what's up, Malika? How you doing?
You sitting there in your Step North studio. You've got a whole media center going.
That's what it takes to do the job. You gotta have the right tools. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you've been in media and technology, what, all your life? Music industry, entertainment industry. You're a musician, sound man. And it passed down to your son. He's a well-known DJ around the city. This is you.
Yeah, well, that's my big baby, I call him, and he doesn't mind it. But he grew up resenting me because I'm a single parent. I raised him from 2 to 20, and at 20 he decided that he could no longer live under my rules because we had rules. I come from that generation that I'm your daddy, not your friend. Okay, so until he got to be 21, he was a child. Okay, and once he got to be 21, then we got to be friends. Okay.
Well, you showed him the ropes, and Step North is, you reach people all around the world with what you do.
Yeah, we're global. Yep.
So, John, with all your gifts and your talents, you are a voice in the community, even though you moved out of Evanston. Explain to us why a longtime resident, because your family has been here, why did you move out of Evanston?
That's another episode. But I was actually they tried to run me out of town. So because there's this whole thing of having people in the community that you can't buy. Okay, and I'm one of those type of people that I'm able to make my own. Nobody helped me with anything, so I don't owe any favors to anyone. So whenever I see something that I feel needs to be brought out, I bring it out. And even if people did help me, I think that I'm about trying to get the truth out. Let's not sugarcoat it, because the only way that you can really, like, if you go to the doctor, you don't want the doctor to tell you a sugarcoating story. You want the real deal. Right now, I had prostate cancer. I can say I had it because it's been a year since I had my last procedure, and I've been tested 5 times, and there's no trace in my system. But in order for me to eradicate the condition, I had to know exactly what my condition was. Okay, then I can attack it and figure out whether I want to go this route or that route. But I'm the type of guy that you tell me the truth, you give me the information, I'll figure out which path is best for me, and then I'll make the decisions, because I'm not gonna let my existence or non-existence be dependent on what somebody else says. In other words, if my throat's got to be cut, give me the knife. I'll do it myself.
Oh, well, yeah, that sounds like a whole nother episode of Evanston Tales.
Yeah, Tales.
Black Evanston.
Tales from the dark side.
Oh, ooh. Okay. Well, John, I was going to ask you because you and I have both participated in a meeting a couple weeks ago, and I pretty much, just ran the video, but you had such a voice, such insight into Evanston, and it was all Evanstonians that were in that particular meeting. And and you brought great concepts, great ideas, because Evanston is always going to be home to you. So you still have a huge hand in Evanston. What are your thoughts about, I see our world, our country, our state, our city moving in a new direction, kind of into the unknown. and I just had an interview with one of the
The,
organizers. One
the
of the
abyss,
organizers for the past protest this past weekend, Mia Williams.
the abyss is moving into the abyss. ABY.
Moving into the abyss, and she was saying that the Black community has always been in a military state, so it's nothing new for us. What are your thoughts on that, and how does that look for Evanston? What do you think is in store for Evanston with this whole Trump world that he's steadily creating?
Well, believe it or not, I don't really think that the fear that Evanston has a lot to fear of what's going on, because you got a great police chief. Okay, I think I don't know how that happened. How they even, I can't even fathom it when they hired Demetrius Cook to be the chief, because Cook comes from the community. I mean, I've known him since he was a rookie cop, and actually, while he was away from Evanston, he was out here in Glenwood, which one of my wife's best girlfriend's husband was on the trustee board of Glenwood. So Cook and I have been in touch, and he's someone that has a pulse on the community that probably curtailed a lot of that activity that took place in other places. So I can't tell you, what an asset he is, and I'm not just painting his wagon. That's just the kind of guy that he is. Okay, if he wasn't anything, I would tell you that ain't the one. But that was a good move. But the problem that Evanston has is that I watched the interview on Hecky, and Hecky was talking to Nina about the subsidies and the people that are living in Evanston, and the fact that he offered a job to a young lady to be his secretary, and she went home and did the calculations and said, well, by the time I lose all of these other benefits, I'm better off staying at home. See, Evanston, they lost a lot of talent. You got when I was going to Evanston High School, we weren't in the top 500. We were number one. Okay, the number one school in the nation. Number one. Matter of fact, I think that one of the main reasons why I ended up at the school that I went to, which was the University of Iowa, Big Ten, out in Iowa City, was not because my grades were, all that great, but I guess I was on an incline, because, once I figure out how the game's played, then I'm usually able to move things along. And that's what I do. I figure out how the game is played, then I go ahead and I work with the parameters. I might be cutting that fine line and right on the curb or leaning towards almost going off, but I never cross the line. I mean, I ride it within a millimeter, centimeter, of the line. But coming from a school that was the number one school in the nation, it automatically, I think, helped me to qualify, or made me more of an attractive candidate. And I ended up actually going to the University of Iowa to study music. But my frustration was I wanted to play baseball. I wanted to be an athlete. I was a better than decent athlete. In baseball, I could just always hit a ball. And, and I, in the summer leagues, the Little League, Pony League, Coat League. Pony League, I had 14 home runs in 16 games, okay? Coat League, I only played really, I didn't really play my first year, but my second year, I got traded to a team, and I had the highest batting average in the league. I hit 550, which is 5.5 times out of 10, me up to the plate, I'm getting on base. And usually they were doubles and triples and home runs. I mean, I wasn't, and it wasn't like I was like John Henry or guys step up with the bat that swings for the fences. I just understood what they told me in the beginning when I started playing baseball. They told me the key. The key was keep your eye on the ball. And that's the key to anything in life. Keep your eye on the ball, keep your eye on the prize. In baseball, if you keep your eye on the ball from the time it leaves the pitcher's hand, you can tell by which way the ball spins or not what the ball is going to do. And then it's just a matter of putting that bat on that ball and making contact. Because if you can make contact, it's better than power. You know, contact is better than power. Because if you hit that ball square, the inertia is going to take off. You know, if you hit it on the top, it's going to be a ground ball. If you hit it underneath, it's going to pop up. But if you hit that ball square, there it goes. Bam.
And that's how you describe moving through Evanston,
Life.
how Evanston works.
Well, no, that's through life. How Evanston works is what they do is they give you an education, and then they don't have any opportunity because there's no economic development in Evanston. In other words, if you don't get a job working for the city, what else are you going to do? And a great deal of the people who live in Evanston that are from Evanston, not the ones that come in or the ones that imports that come in from Northwestern, because at one time, you know, we had a community of businesses and people would, you know, go to school. Maybe they didn't go to college. Maybe they got through the high school. They got out, they started their own business. Like, for instance, my uncle Pete Belcher, he was working for a company called Utility. He was in the Army, and he learned about HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning. He came home. He started working for a company called Utilities Products that was on the corner of Lake and Sherman, and they sold you know, like household, you know, like they were like apt. They sold Best Buy, you know, they sold kitchens, they sold you know, utilities, they sold refrigerators and gas stoves, gas, electric, and they sold them all over the North Shore. Well, Pete came in as a installer, and they made him the installation manager. Okay, so basically, you know, he went from there to the manager. When they closed down their service department, then the people that were their clients all up in Kenilworth, they demanded that nobody else could come to their house. They wanted Pete. They wanted my uncle. So he started Pete Belcher Service, and he basically ran that business by himself and did very, very well. I mean, he had I'm not going to tell you how much it was, but you know, he had a cabin in Wisconsin. You know, he had houses around Evanston. He even sold to my cousin, the Fullers, that lot that is behind Heckey's, that lot where they park. He owned that parcel. He went and bought that and then sold it to them. He owned a few houses on Jackson, also over by Ashland and Payne over there. He did very well because he had a trade, but you know, and he fixed a lot of things around in the community.
So John, how does it make you feel to see? So you have family members who had land and property here, businesses here. How do you feel about where Evanston is going now with this new administration and things that, you know, his vision for how he wants things to be and how it all kind of trickles down into cities like Evanston? What do you see happening?
I see the total decimation of the west side of Evanston, and you know, the gentrification and cleansing to the point where a lot of the people who were born and actually raised in that city have to go elsewhere for opportunities because there's not any enterprise or industry that actually supports homegrown talent. That's why we have people in Atlanta, Los Angeles. I mean, they have picnics in Los Angeles and Atlanta where you go out there, there's 2,000 or 3,000 people out there from Evanston. Well, why are they leaving? Why are they in Las Vegas? Why didn't, you know, where's all this talent? In the meantime, they're running around crying, talking about, oh, we can't do anything. We don't have any enterprise. We don't have anything. Well, you know, Evanston, they give you a great education, and then they more or less say thank you. And then at one point, Northwestern started thinking, well, we can go to Northwestern and get our talent. Northwestern started saying, well, we have city here where we can bring our students through and we can get opportunities for them right here. And it's, you know, and they basically displaced a lot of the original people in Evanston. And then the businesses, once Northwestern started winning football games, I guess Evanston was fine until Northwestern started winning football games, and all of a sudden, all the developers discovered Evanston, Illinois, and the downtown went from being a very cohesive community type situation. Now they're trying to be a little Chicago, which there's not enough to support, you know, because the other part of the problem with Evanston is that, you know, by Northwestern not paying any taxes and taking advantage of all the things that taxpayers take advantage of, that's what drives the tax base up to the point where a lot of the people, once they graduate from high school or get from under their parents, they end up moving out because they can't afford to live there anymore. And one of the main things that happened was that when integration hit Evanston, integration hit, that was a good thing because now, hey, integration, you can, before, you know, you can't live over here. No, you can't live over there. But we had good schools. We had, you know, it was separate but equal. It might have been separate but better because those teachers at Foster School knew how to deal with us. I'm gonna say us little knucklehead kids, because we were a load. I mean, I go down the list and tell you, you know, we were some badass little kids, okay? And we had people who would put us.
Only a handful of y'all.
No, everybody.
Oh, no.
Everybody. The only thing that kept us in line at, we call Foster School Red Rock Prison, okay? The only thing that kept us in line was if you got in trouble, we had a principal called Dr. Clem. Dr. Clem, the nicest guy, white guy, nicest guy you ever want to see. Dr. Clem was a nice, just wonderful guy. But then there was Joe Hill. Dr. Joe Hill, who they named the building after, who, if he was running those kids today, he would be in jail because because of the rules. You know, the rules changed. The whole thing was our teachers would discipline us, and it was okay with the parents. Now these parents, don't touch my kid, don't touch my kid. Well, sometimes the kids deserve the, you know, I can't think of one time that I got disciplined from anybody that I didn't deserve it. And even down the line, you know, I used to think, oh, it's just me that I thought about it once I got grown. Well, you know what? I got spanked for this. I deserved it. Well, the teachers used to, you know, Miss Wimberly, there was a teacher called Miss Flint. We called her Skin Flint. She was a white teacher, and everybody knew better to mess with her. So she had that mental thing going. You know, you don't mess with Skin Flint, okay? Miss Flint was rough. Then we had Miss Scott Farrell, who was good with the ruler. Miss Wimberly was good with the ruler. Mr. Phillips would go upside your head. Robert Dawkins, Dr. Dawkins, great guy. He would put it on you. But the king of them all, you did not want to see Joe Hill. Joe Hill was, you know, you'd rather go home and see your daddy, because he had this thing where he had his knuckles and he'd rub them upside your head like that. And oh man, you know, but it wasn't like he was vicious. We were just hard-headed little kids, you know, and that's part of the problem that I see today with a lot of situations, is that there's a lack of discipline, and parents are coming up not under the rules of what we saw. You know, like I said, my son was a child until he became a man. When he turned 21, then we could hang together. But up until then, I was his daddy, not his friend. Okay.
Well, I love how Evanston, when people describe Evanston, that it was such like you all have the page Our Village,
Yeah.
Black Evanstonian, because it takes a village. So everybody looked out, from the teachers to other parents. Everybody looked out for each other. in Evanston. Do you think, well, clearly that it's not like that anymore. So where do you think Evanston is headed now with all the changes that are taking place? I mean, COVID-19 came in and just threw a grenade. So everybody's, yeah, it's like stepping into the unknown now. Where do you see, because you know Evanston so well, where do you see Evanston going now?
I really don't know, because you don't have that community. You don't have that, I mean, I knew Homer Fleetwood. I mean, I feel fortunate that a lot of people that are named. I knew Bo Price. I mean, all these people are like synonymous and famous. But Mr. Fleetwood would sit in that office and smoke his cigar. He would never come out. But we had night baseball games on that baseball field. We had a semi-pro baseball team. We had a semi-pro football team. We had basketball teams. Like, for instance, when I made the decision to go into music and not play sports at the high school, because I felt really that I was being discriminated against, they had a team. I played with the Evanston Cardinals semi-pro baseball team. I've got newspaper articles of, where, I could get my game on with them. I mean, we would travel to different cities and different states to play. I'm playing with these grown men. I'm a 17-year-old kid still hitting home runs. Okay, I hit home runs against the kids. I hit home runs against the grown people. I'm hitting home runs. Okay, but it gave me that completeness where not only could I get my music thing on through being in the high school music department, and also I was playing with bands in nightclubs with adults when I was 15 years old. I mean, I'd go to high school during the day, I'd go to a rehearsal or a practice, after school, and then at night go to a rehearsal with a band. On the weekend, I'm playing in these nightclubs with these guys that are like twice my age. A lot of the people that are considered legend, I guess, on the shorefront thing, I'm not listed with them, but I'm right there with them, with Carlton Black, Patty Drew, Bruce Fisher, Donald Pryor. There's a lot of people that weren't listed. Sonny Jackson, Post Sonny King, Bubby Kelly, Ray.
We have to do a full-on John Nance episode, a John Nance history, your life.
Well, that would not be John Nance. That would be what I call Evanston, which is one of the reasons why I started Evanston. Evanston was the Evanston Music Reunion Festival, where I'm actually the somewhat of a historian about all of the people who played music from Evanston, because we got absorbed by Chicago. See, a lot of people didn't know that we had so many people from our town that were on the circuit and traveling and playing in different places, because they got absorbed into Chicago. But many of these people were playing at the underground joints, the speakeasies, like they call them, speakeasies. Maybe you understand it if I call it a speakeasy, but we call it a joint. Bobby Jones is where Prince Towers is right now, right next to the track. There was a house there, and then there was a nightclub that you never went in the front door because everybody always went in the back. And that was the social life for the Black people, and Masonic Temple. You would go upstairs or in the basement. I used to play there. I played there hundreds of times as a kid. And then we got people from Evanston that actually, that song, "You Are So Beautiful" by Joe Cocker? Willie Go Round in Circles and "Nothing from Nothing Leaves Nothing" by Billy, what's you know his name? I can't think. "Nothing from Nothing Leaves Nothing." The guy who co-wrote that song, Bruce Fisher, lived on Foster and Brown, right around the corner.
Wow.
Okay, he wrote those. "You Are So Beautiful," which is a standard, is played at 1,000,000 weddings. "You are so beautiful to me." That's Bruce Fisher. him and his brother Larry were musicians. They played music around Evanston back in the 60s and the 70s. Bruce went out to California, ran into Quincy Jones. Next thing you know, he's on that Body Heat album by Quincy Jones, singing the lead. And he's also been on a lot of different other things. Well, wow. Bruce, we all
history, a lot of history.
It's a lot of history, but it's the unclaimed history because there's this perception that people want you to see Evanston as this little lily white town with their Negroes that came up over here, when actually there was a vibrant lifestyle where we were just like any other village.
Well, I tell you, we're gonna have to have like a John Nance segment where you just give us like history on things that have happened in Evanston, the amazing people who came up out of Evanston and made history. Because I always enjoy talking to you because I learned so much. Like I didn't know, you are so beautiful. Like was out of here, out of Evanston. So.
But not only that, Walking in Rhythm. He was on Walking in Rhythm with the Blackbirds. Walking in Rhythm. That's an Evanstonian singing that. I mean, Bruce.
Evanston is such a beautiful community. Like you and I both, we've lived in other places, came back to Evanston, and it's just a beautiful. I wasn't here for Evanston when Evanston had its own Black-owned everything, where they own their own everything.
You weren't born, baby. What your dad was, your mom was. Your dad was actually in the mid-70s. He was like one of the big promoters around here doing, he managed bands and actually did a lot of studio stuff. I mean, before he went out to California,
Al Joy, he's my stepdad. He is an amazing man. Actually, the anniversary of his passing is coming up this week. Actually, we miss him so much. But yeah, he would tell me stories about Evanston. His father owned a business here.
Yeah, and plus his father was the organist in the church.
Yeah, he owned the.
People didn't know that Mr. Joy. I went to church. I saw Mr. Joy playing the keyboard. I'm like, Mr. Joy, he was getting down.
Yes. And Al would tell me, he would say, none of my sons will ever, they all have to be an entrepreneurial spirit, leaders, because that's the stock he grew from right here in Evanston. He was like, Evanston, we owned our own stuff.
Yeah.
And something just blew up, and it's just no longer that way. Now everybody's trying to hold on to their property.
Because of the lack of opportunity. He left. The reason why so many others left. I mean, you have to have a community and an economic development team, and there was no entrepreneurial economic development. The people who were put in charge that actually we were entrusted with building the economics of this community, what they did was they put the money in their pockets and everything else went away. But then at the same time, that's by design, because the businesses downtown, they needed the black dollar in order to survive. And so at one point, they didn't want us down there. And then at another point, they couldn't do without us. So, so the businesses went away. I mean, I will say that, my dad had a dry cleaner and he was a master tailor. Now polyester knocked him out, because once used to be back in the day, they had the silk and the wool suits and cashmere and everything, and you used to go to the dry cleaner. That was the way it was, but once it hit polyester, people were just throwing things in the washing machine, pulling them out, ironing them, and going. So there wasn't as much of a need for a dry cleaner. And then, at the same time, it just wasn't, people weren't paying for their clothes either. There's a lot of people left a lot of clothes there. As a matter of fact, I'll say this now, but I used to be very frustrated as a child because the holidays come, I would have the sharpest suit in the church because my dad would go in the back and get one of those suits from somebody that had left it there for several years, and he was a master tailor, so he would take that material, which might be virgin wool, cashmere, silk, and recut that suit and to fit me perfectly, put a silk lining in it and put his tag in it. And the deacons used to always come over and fill my suits, but I was upset because all the other kids was wearing polyester. I wanted a polyester suit. I get some old. I was be saying to myself, one day I want a new suit. You go back and grab them old suits somebody else didn't wore. But basically, you know, I wish he was around now. You know, because he used to go back there, and the deacons used to always come over, and then later on, you know, the older girls, the bigger girls, you know, the ones, your little boy, you looking up at them little cutie pies that might be 3 or 4 years older than you. They say, "Oh, you were such a cute little kid. You used to always dress so nice, and you know, you come sharp." And then Dad, I was in fashion shows and everything else because everybody didn't know that my dad was what they call now repurposing. He was repurposing the suits. Yeah, repurposing. You know, because it didn't have no purpose sitting back there with somebody that got it cleaned and he had to pay for it. So you leave it back there 2 or 3 years, you know, come around Christmas time or Thanksgiving or Easter, you know, my dad would go back there and grab one of those suits and cut it up. I mean, he was a master tailor.
Well, gosh, I miss like just hearing those stories of Evanston. I mean, my stepdad would talk about the stories of Evanston, Al Joy, and then his father, Mr. Joy, and yeah. So I think people are really wanting Evanston to get back, Black Evanston to get back to that era. And I'm just wondering, with everything that's going on, you know, how Evanston can get back there. I mean,
what would it take?
What would it take?
What would it take? What it would take? It would take a group of organized people to sit down and talk about 21st century business. In other words, what businesses are going to be viable moving forward. We will never recapture the past, okay? Make no mistake about it. But take it from me and all of this technology that I got around me, you know, that I can turn on, off and on, and deal with, that the world is going in a direction where you don't necessarily need all of that. And if we can identify the businesses of the future and put together a strategic plan, it's all in planning. It's all in putting together a strategy. Look at what you need for economic development, go in that direction, you know, and then execute it. Now, it sounds simple, but it's not. It's not. I mean, you know, you got people that, well, we want an ice cream shop. No, we want this, we want that. It might not be feasible to do that, but in terms of doing a tech center where you have 100 people that might could get a job on a call center that's doing customer service or doing application development or doing even a lot of the other businesses that are emerged, you kind of got to be like Uber and the offshoots of Uber, the Grubhub, the DoorDash. I mean, they have actually gone in and created new industries based on the need to expand. And actually, those businesses are keeping a lot of businesses in business because what they've done is, now Uber revolutionized the transportation industry and getting people from point to point, and to the point where there's a lot of millennials that don't even have cars anymore because they realize that if you live downtown, it doesn't make any sense to try to have a car because parking is expensive, insurance is expensive, the tickets are expensive. So by the time you get finished paying, you know, all of those, for one of those, you can get to wherever you need to go. And then if you need to go somewhere, you can rent a car. Okay, so that's innovation. But now the delivery services have come along and actually helped restaurants, because one of the main problems with restaurants was you have to have people walk into your business in order to come in, and you have to have people that will patronize you and come into your business, where now you could sit at home, and even with COVID-19, they'll leave it by your door and ring the doorbell, ding ding, and go. You know, you can have your food delivered to you. So what that does is it expands the base and takes them outside of the realm of the neighborhood to make them more, it gives them a bigger customer base, which gives them a larger income. So you got to look at 21st century trends and businesses and actually support the businesses that go in that direction.
Well, I know you're working with a group in Evanston, and you all are putting your heads together. And I'm looking forward to one, the reparations, and two, I mean, it's just so many changes happening. So, you know, I'm just anxious to see where Evanston is headed. It's in a way, it's kind of exciting. In a way, it's kind of exciting because it'd be great if we can all have a new start.
You got to watch the reparations, okay? You know why? Because the city of Evanston has never given anything to the Black community they didn't end up taking back for themselves, okay? I'm really gonna tell you. I mean, they, at one point in time, they had a TIF fund from Dempster down to Simpson, all the way over to Green Bay Road, where they actually took the tax money for 5 years, and that was supposed to go into community economic development, and a good portion of that money ended up going downtown. So you have to watch it, because what they'll do is they will grant you the ability to do something, and then they say, "Oh, they ain't doing nothing. We might as well use it for this." It's kind of like the lottery. Well, we want the lottery. You can't have it. Well, it'll help with education. No, you can't have it. Education will help the kids. And if we got the lottery, we could get education and the kids could do better. So they get the lottery. Now, how much of that money is going into education? Hardly none of it. Hardly none of it. Then they come with, and this is not Evanston, this is just in general, okay? Then they talk about gambling. We want a casino gambling in Illinois. No, you can't have it. Yeah, but see, we get that money, we can get education. You know, it's like they use kids for bait, and then the kids never end up getting the benefit, and you end up with a bunch of badass kids that are out here tearing stuff up. And then you say, well, why is it like that? Well, because you never used it for the purposes intended. Therefore, you opened it up for other things that you had no idea would happen. So I'm saying that, you know, that if this money is going to be put up, and I don't know if people are going to listen to me, you know, I mean, I'm not even going to push it to the point. I'm going to say what I have to say, and then let it be what it's got to be. Because bottom line is that, you know, I don't live in Evanston no more. Okay, you know, unfortunately, because I used to give my time to the community and the kids, and a lot of those kids that ended up being gangbangers were kids that I coached. But then there's a lot of good kids that I coached, like John Murray, Hayden Brammer, Dwayne Akins. I coached Vernon, Smiley, Dave McCray. I could go down the list and name you at least 100 kids that I actually coached baseball coming up when I was working for the recreation department. But then there goes another story. You know, why was I not working with those kids when I told them that those kids were going to grow up and that they were going to need to have some identity? And they said, oh no, we don't have a problem. So you do have a problem. I'm out there with them every day. You know, and they listened to me. You know, I didn't have to go upside their head. You know, I had them on the baseball field. I mean, I had them in sports. I would work with the recreation department because I was a park director when I was like 17, 18, and 19. I was a park director, which meant I actually ran a park. And then I would get off the job and then go to foster and deal with them as kids on a baseball team. We had 40 kids on the baseball team, and I had them all under control. You know, Ricky Kenner, he went to the farm. He almost made, he played pro. He played minor league pro, but he played pro. Dave McCray, he's a great athlete. John Phillip Jones played in college. You know, 3 of my kids started F.A.A.M. John Murray, Dwayne Akins, and Hayden Brammer. So anytime you see me on Facebook and you see me say to somebody, give me 3 laps, they were one of my kids. But then you say, good morning, coach, how you doing? Give me 3 laps. Because they respect authority, discipline, but they really know when you love them, okay?
Right.
They respect love above all. And I love those kids, and we all had great experiences together. Melvin Smith went out and got the uniforms. We only had 15 uniforms. So every week, I picked 15 people to play, and the rest of the people would root for the rest of the team because there was no doubt about who should have worn the uniforms at the end of the week.
Wow. Well, reparations is definitely going to be a conversation for quite some time now. It's going to be a conversation. It's going to be a conversation.
But what needs to happen
ongoing
you got to be smarter than them. And Robin can only do Robin. Okay, Robin and Cook. Those are the 2 brightest stars in Evanston in the system. Robin Rule Simmons and Demetrius Cook. Okay, but Robin can't do everything. She's got to really deal with her position, and she can't really, get down into it. So the community's got to come through and determine, but there has to be a strategy on how you're going to use that fund, that money, because otherwise, if they don't use it, then what's going to happen is it's going to go away. Now, what would I do if this, what was I hoping to do? When I broke away from Evanston and went out on my own, I was hoping to make enough money to come back in and make a difference. Unfortunately, I didn't make enough to save the community, but I did do well enough to save my own butt. I saved my own booty. Okay, so John Nance is okay. I've never, taking care of myself and my family has never really been a problem because I'm a hustler. Yeah, I make things happen out here. I get, then the phone rings and people call me up because of, things that I've done in the past. But, what I would do, actually, I would get that school. I would buy that school and I would turn that foster school, which has become family focused, which they gave the family focus. They gave that building the family focus. They didn't want to give it to Elder Moody so he could have a school. So they gave it the family focus. And now Family Focus wants $2 million for a building that they benefited with and made money and paid salaries for over 20-something years. Now they want to sell it for $2 million. But I would go in and actually leverage and buy that building and turn it into a technology facility or a learning facility that would develop people for the skills so that they can make the money to buy the properties that will be there. You could take those rooms and divide them up into different business models, and have the facilities right there. Because the problem is there's not enough space in Evanston to really do a lot. But from that one catalyst, you could get whatever space is available and do your redevelopment, but you need an anchor. So if you can't do the bank, because that's what we talked about before, I told them you need a bank, you need a financial institution. But you could put a financial institution in that building. You could put 100 different businesses in there. You could put instruction and training. You could put development, personal and otherwise, because there's just enough space there. And not only that, you have a theater, so you could also do your arts development and also create productions that can stream out all over the world, right in that one place.
Well, like I said, it's going to be an ongoing conversation, and yeah, Robin Ruth Simmons, she can't do it all on her own, but she's definitely, you know, leading the way. She's a pioneer with reparations right now all over the country, bringing hope that it can actually be real and actually happen. But she can't do it all on her own in terms of um, you know, what it is that we want to do. So we appreciate her like listening to the community and wanting to hear ideas on what to do with this money. But I know you have to get going, John. We said we was gonna keep it short, and we did.
Well, listen, you know, I'm here, so we could have several sessions. You know,
Yeah, I love
I'm
talking to you, John. It's like a Evanston history lesson. I learned so much things that we just don't know, that we don't hear about unless we sit down and talk to people who have been here and really lived Evanston and have a love for Evanston.
well,
So
if you don't have a sense of congregational, you know, this whole thing, and that's what's in danger now with this virus, is breaking up the ability for people to congregate. But you know, if you used to come down my neighborhood, when no grass grew on Foster Street because we had so many kids there. But you would see us, 18 and 20 of us together, you know, and we would be playing sports. We had, you know, we had our own teams that we played in the alley. I mean, we did the recreation thing, but our park was right in the alley. You know, we kept track of home runs and everything. We played all the sports, football, baseball. You couldn't play basketball. We had to go down to Foster for that. But, you know, anything, we had races and everything else, because all the kids in the community would come together. Now you get them together, it's like a gang, and people want to bust it up. Well, you know, I don't know what to say about that, you know.
well, we're gonna have to do a John Nance part 2, and
Okay.
yes, and it's so many people.
Probably 12 parts, but then the Evanston thing, you know, I think is real important because there's a lot of history about the music from Evanston, because every neighborhood had their own bands, and that's what you don't have nowadays. Nowadays, you know, let's not even go into that, but every neighborhood had at least 2 to 3 bands. Okay. And then we would get together sometimes and all the bands would get together and have a battle of the bands. Okay. Which, you know, Urban Crisis was undefeated. But, you know, but we practiced more than everybody too. So, but Malika, I want to thank you. And anytime I'm here.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you. Looking forward to talking to you again. And yeah, I guess we got a meeting coming up as well, wanting to hear more about what's happening with Black Evanston.
Yeah, I'm going to try to, you know, kind of, you know, just say what I have to say, but let people come up with their ideas, because it's not that I know everything, but, you know, I do have management and experience in managing large-scale projects, because a lot of people don't even realize that my first job was with CETA, with an NYC program with Neighbors at Work through HECI, right? In 1999, I did the Y2K plan for CETA, and Bob Wharton, who was the president, called me back. So from 1999 to 2003, my consulting company, we built their whole technology infrastructure for CETA, and that was a 3-year, $3.1 million deal for me that actually brought them into the 21st century. And then what happened after that, that's another story.
That's a whole nother episode, right?
I left them in great, and when I left them, they were 200 million, largest private not-for-profit in the country. They were zooming, everything was working, everything was cool. What happened beyond that is tragedy.
Well, we'll have to hear about that in another episode. Thank you so much, John. Thank you. Thank you always. So, you know, we'll be talking a little later.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And this is Malika, Evanston Live TV, and that was Mr. John Nance. I love talking to people who grew up here in Evanston, who have bloodlines here from Evanston, because you learn so much. I mean, things you're just not going to learn, in the grade schools or at ETHS about this city. You got to sit down and talk to the people who have lived it and have been here. And John Nance is definitely one of those people. Um, he's got some stories for you, let me tell you. So I'm looking forward to bringing more Evanstonians on, Black Evanstonians on to Evanston Live TV to hear, like what happened to Black Evanston and what's the vision for new Black Evanston. All right, you guys stay tuned. Thank you so much for supporting Evanston Live TV. And as always, please be aware, stay conscious of what's going on. There's so much going on out there. We got COVID-19. We've got an administration that's trying to turn it into a military state. Please be careful out there. Be aware, be conscious, pay attention. I know we don't want to pay attention to what President Trump goes on the news and says his press conferences, but you almost got to know, because you might step outside your house when you weren't supposed to step outside the house, and we don't want anything happening to anybody out there. It's crazy. It's getting really crazy out there. Innocent people just being hurt. So please stay conscious, stay aware, stay alert, and stay tuned with Evanston Live TV. More to come.